कृष्ण विभोः प्रजातो भवानी वाभ्रः प्रभुपादभानोः संसारिणां वर्षति हृन्मरुर्व्यां देवामृता स्वामिनम् आश्रयेऽहं प्रलम्बकायं प्रकटप्रभावं गम्भीरभावं करुणार्द्रचित्तम् अगाधबोधं च विरागशोभं देवामृता स्वामिनम् आश्रयेऽहं भावो भवाग्नौ भवतोऽम्बुवर्षो वाचो विचाराश्च तमो निहन्तुं नादोदयायानमिवास्ति हृद्यो देवामृता स्वामिनम् आश्रयेऽहम् प्रचारणे दक्षसुदीर्घदर्शी नृश्रेयसे कारुणिकाश्च भक्तिं नवानोपायान् रचयन्तनोऽसि देवामृता स्वामिनमाश्रयेऽहम्.
He's deeply concerned about the welfare of not just his disciples, but all of the devotees within ISKCON, and the health not only of the devotees but also of the devotional community. So if there's struggle or challenges, difficulties, Maharaj takes those circumstances and situations to heart and thinks of and gives advice and support for the leaders of communities, not just here in Melbourne but all over the world.
Sometimes devotees, they say, I'm getting initiated. And I say, oh, who are you getting initiated by? And when they say Devamrita Swami, I always say, you're so fortunate. Because Maharaj gets involved in the lives of his disciples, which is actually extra special, because some gurus, they are a little distant from the disciple. But the Devamrita Swami gets very involved. And he always reminds me of my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because he was very much like that. Tamal Krishna Maharaj once said to us, I like to hold the reins. I like to be involved with my disciples' lives. And Devamrita Swami is like that. He's very involved in the lives of all of his disciples. So I feel that anyone who gets shelter of him is extremely fortunate. And one time, Prabhupada was driving to Mayapur from Calcutta. This is in the 1970s when Mayapur was just being established. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said he was sitting next to Prabhupada and they were driving to Mayapur. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said to Prabhupada, some of your godbrothers are criticizing you because you're doing so many things which are revolutionary and different. And they were saying certain things about Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, how many disciples have they made? How many books have they distributed? And how many temples have they opened? And then he said, and then we'll see who is the real son of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So I always feel that way when I meditate on that pastime or hear that pastime. For some reason, I always think of Devamrita Swami because I think that he is a real disciple of Srila Prabhupada. How many disciples has he made? How many books have been distributed under his inspiration? And how many Krishna conscious preaching centers have been established around the world under his leadership?
3/4 of a century, still preaching with enthusiasm and the enthusiasm of a brand new brahmachari. Clearly, Krishna has given you a lifetime renewable energy plan. Your tireless dedication to sharing Krishna consciousness across the globe is legendary. From the bustling cities to the most unexpected corners of the world, you carry Srila Prabhupada's message like a perfectly tuned mridanga, steady, resonant, and impossible to ignore.
You know us and our nature better than we do. At one point, I was thinking whether I should be a brahmachari or become a householder. I myself wasn't sure if I could live in a brahmachari ashram. But I was thinking to be a brahmachari would be a more Krishna conscious thing to do. So I thought I will ask you. And I prepared all my arguments for why I should not be a householder. In my darshan, I asked you, I'm thinking about becoming a brahmachari. And as soon as I said that, you replied, I don't see you as a brahmachari. And that was the end of the conversation. After the darshan, I wasn't very happy because I didn't get to use any of the arguments I had prepared. So I thought I will ask you again. But this time I will not be so direct. So in my next darshan, a few months later, I asked you the same question, but I said it very indirectly. And as soon as I said what I said, without a blink of an eye, you replied, I don't see you as a brahmachari. So then I asked you, why don't you see me as a brahmachari? You said, because you're attached to living in a comfortable house. You're attached to driving a nice car. You're attached to this, you're attached to that. You named a few things. And then you asked me, is that true? I thought for a few seconds and replied, yes. You then said, I was just testing you. This is how far my brahmachari life went.
Recently, I was feeling overwhelmed by the service I was doing for a small outreach program. After cooking for the program, I would drive for almost 50 minutes in peak hour traffic to pick up guests and bring them to the venue, as there was no direct public transport from their home to the venue. My mind was telling me I was doing too much and I don't need to give so much of myself to others, especially when most guests don't reciprocate. At that moment, the super soul in my heart brought up a memory of what I had heard you say in a talk, that during the days of Iron Curtain, you and perhaps another devotee drove to a distant town simply because you heard a person was spotted there wearing a Lord Shiva t-shirt. I suddenly felt very enthused and my tiredness dissipated.
Watching you interact with devotees and newcomers is such a joy. You speak with such focus and control, and the genuine concern you have can be felt. Once, we were also newcomers, and you showed us that concern and care. Then, and ever since, your kindness has never wavered. You still speak transcendental knowledge that protect us from bad decisions and reveal the spiritual reality. You give us an experience of what an eternal relationship is like.
What I deeply admire about you is the way that you're a strict follower and servant of Srila Prabhupada, being extremely conversant with his books and teachings. It's evident to me about this in the content of your lectures, which you expertly present this knowledge in succession, whilst sharing your ecstatic personal realizations in a relatable present-day context, such as your use of modern-day Western terminology and examples in explaining Krishna-conscious topics, as well as your revolutionary comments on the solutions to contemporary world issues.
Guru Maharaj, I also want to express my deep appreciation for your personal care and concern. In 2009 in Buenos Aires, you gently asked me about my future and whether I had considered marriage. At that time, I was so focused on preaching that I hadn't thought about it. You told me think about it, explore the idea, because I won't always be here to look after you. Those words have stayed with me for years, revealing the depth of your care. Later, after I was married, you lovingly asked my husband, Jai Sachinandana Prabhu, are you looking after my daughter? This showed me again how much you care, not only for our spiritual life, but also for our well-being in every aspect.
Much of services Gurudev does, some of them we are not even aware of. He's just behind the scene.
came over to New Zealand in the early 90s, and he put a lot of hard work and effort into developing the Sankirtan book distribution in New Zealand and developing some centres. And because of his efforts, so much of what is going on in New Zealand today is because of all the hard work and effort that Maharaj did from the early 90s. One of the first things that Maharaj did was he established a couple of centres. So one is called The Loft, which is up in Auckland, and another one called Bhakti Lounge, which is in Wellington. And these centres, they focus on Western outreach, so outreach to Westerners, and in particular to students and young professionals. And when he first started, Maharaj was actually on the ground, doing the groundwork, actually preaching and training people himself. And after some time, he then trained these devotees on how to be mentors, how to be leaders. And it's amazing because not only has Maharaj established outreach centres to bring people to bhakti, but he's actually also set up a strong community and culture of guidance and care. So there's a good chance that people can come to Krishna consciousness through the outreach, but also stay in the fold of the devotees, which is so critical and such an amazing gift that Maharaj has given us. So around about 2007, 2008, Maharaj was cultivating a businessman down in Wellington, and this businessman really liked what the devotees were doing. And so through Maharaj's encouragement, this businessman actually gave a donation which we could actually purchase a rural property which is called New Devamrita. So the purpose was to have a place where devotees can come from the city and rest and recuperate and relax and get rejuvenated, so then they can go back into the city. And it just goes to show that with all these things that's going on, at the forefront of Maharaj's mind is always the devotee care and devotee well-being. The recent project that Maharaj has been working on is a project called New Gram. Now, for quite some time, Maharaj has been really wanting to try and fulfill Srila Prabhupada's vision and desire of having farms in New Zealand. And Srila Prabhupada was quite clear that he did want to have that.
We think of Devamrita Maharaj's contributions, they're just so vast. Of course, primarily the spiritual guidance, the leadership, the mentorship. Maharaj is very astute in understanding everyone's nature and engaging them accordingly and making adventures out of services, especially coming from urban centers to rural areas. None of the current team members or even in the past were farmers in any sort of way. And then in addition to that, his vision is very strong in terms of what Srila Prabhupada desired. Srila Prabhupada's model is that every city temple should be affiliated to a farm. And so that vision of Prabhupada, Devamrita Swami carries very strongly in his heart. Maharaj is also very visionary and innovative in his thinking and understanding of outreach based on sustainability. Devamrita Swami plays such a crucial role in Girinagari thriving at this point. Through mobilization of resources, financial and devotees, through vision and strategy, through mentorship, Devamrita Swami plays such a crucial role. So Devamrita Maharaj reminds us often that Srila Prabhupada said 2 things 3 times, just 2 things. He said books, 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 and farm, farm, farm. And so for those of us who know him can see how he's very focused in those 2 areas.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is my humble offering on the occasion of the divine appearance of His Holiness Devamrita Swami. I am his grateful younger godbrother, and I take refuge in his association. due to his having the qualities of loyalty to Srila Prabhupada, as has been the case throughout his life, courageousness in service, he has exhibited uncommon courage in spreading Krishna consciousness at the risk of his own life. Advocacy. He advocates for what Prabhupada advocated for, meaning that he's an empowered representative of our founder Acharya. He does not deviate an inch from the mood and methods of Srila Prabhupada. Devamrita Swami is soft-hearted. Every year, when I meet him, he brings gifts. Dadati Pratigranati. He loves his godbrothers, and he always shows it by bringing gifts and by giving warm-hearted, humble encouragement. He's the rarest of rare souls in that he's given his entire life to Srila Prabhupada, sparked by reading Srila Prabhupada's purports. He's among the most articulate, if not the most articulate, in expressing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But that's not articulate, also interesting. As Prabhupada mentions, in the first canto, 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first verse, one should repeat the message of the Acharyas, but not screw out any new meaning, even while presenting it in a relevant and interesting way. This is called realization, Prabhupada says. That's Devamrita Swami. Inventive in the service of the Lord, the ways in which His Holiness has developed the means to cultivate his words, the non-traditionals, is revolutionary. It's changed our movement. His observations about how to do it, which have come from his dedication to teaching Krishna consciousness to non-traditionals, is profound. Therefore, those of you who are taking shelter of Devamrita Swami are perfectly placed. Your praise of him as a perfected devotee is well done. And I leave you with this paragraph from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 11.89, in which Srila Prabhupada writes, a devotee is always thinking of how to better serve Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how to broadcast his name, fame, and qualities throughout the world. One who is Nitya Siddha has no business other than broadcasting the glories of the Lord all over the world according to his ability. Such people are already associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitya Siddha Kari Mani. One should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present 500 years ago, only his associates were liberated. Rather, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says that anyone is a Nitya Siddha if he acts on behalf of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading the glories of the holy name of the Lord. We should respect those devotees preaching the glories of the Lord as Nitya Siddha and should not consider them conditioned. All glories to His Holiness Devamrita Swami. He's my life and soul. Please, unabashedly and full-heartedly, give him your service and help him to spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world according to his vision, in such a way you will please Lord Krishna.
In this address, I'd like to speak to you about two things: the jewel and the setting of the jewel. This ceremony is glorifying the parampara. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Evam parampara praptam imam rajasya vidu. Krishna is emphasizing that we have a jewel in that we are connected to the parampara, the disciplic succession, going back to Lord Krishna himself. Just that connection is the most extraordinary wealth, and we should never take it for granted. To understand Krishna as he is no small accomplishment. Therefore, Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, if you can understand him in truth, then upon giving up this present body, you don't take another material body. So this is how crucially important the knowledge coming through parampara is. Then every jewel needs a setting. So Srila Prabhupada gave us not only the jewel of parampara knowledge of Krishna, but he gave us the setting, his mission, his institution. That institution contains so many nationalities, so many ethnicities, yet somehow or other, Srila Prabhupada wanted us all to work together. Sometimes that is very difficult because we're all individuals. Sometimes there are disagreements, even amongst the most senior devotees. But because of dedication to Srila Prabhupada's setting for the jewel that he gave us, we somehow or other stick together. So remember, we have two things: the jewel and the setting. The jewel is the parampara knowledge of Krishna, Krishna as he is. And the setting is the organization, ISKCON, for working together to accomplish Srila Prabhupada's mission. We can relate to the spiritual master in two ways. As you know, if you've studied Bhagavatam, there's Vapu, there's the physical presence of the Guru, and there is Vani, his instructions. I was always lamenting I didn't get much of the Vapu at all. Meanwhile, I was so foolish, I didn't notice that Prabhupada was drowning me in his Vani. It took me years to understand Srila Prabhupada's statements in his books that the Vani is more intense than the physical association. That's something that sounds counterintuitive, hard to understand. Because we think, because we're in the bodily conception of life, we think physical association is the most intense. But actually, as you progress in spiritual life, you find that the Vani, the association by following the instructions, by meditating on the instructions of the Guru, is the most intense.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev